On the agenda tonight, we're going to be taking a look at Greta Van Fleet performing Black Smoke Rising and revealing the biggest secret of singing. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus, and welcome to another analysis video. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe. So, first of all, don't worry, this isn't going to be one of those videos that teaches you a secret or a weird trick to sing high notes and all that kind of stuff. This is going to be a video looking at Josh's voice in a little bit more detail from Greta Van Fleet. We did feature them a few years ago now, but we are going to be potentially revealing a secret, something that you might not know about singing, which could well be the reason that you personally think that you can't sing. So we will jump into this performance from Z93, the rock station, and I will be jumping into the performance to be pointing out multiple things. So if you want to watch it the whole way through, there's a link in the description below, as always. But let's jump into it. So I'm gonna jump in here already because there are some really important things to point out. First of all, when I've looked at a lot of Greta Van Fleet videos on YouTube, there have been multiple comments underneath saying about Josh's voice and the range that he has, or at least they refer to it as range. They say, Josh has got such an amazing range and such a huge range. And this is where the misconception comes in, because range is from your bottom note to your top note in whatever performance you're looking at. So in this particular song, we're going from a G3 to an E5. So that's the range that we've got being covered by Josh's voice. Now, the reason that people think there's a huge range going on is not because of the number of notes, it's because of the height of those notes, or the pitch, how high these notes are. The fact that Josh naturally sings in a very high place in that male tenor range, and you could argue the counter tenor range, all of the notes above A4. So what I'm going to do is get up on screen a piano, and I have marked on the piano the range that we've got going on in this song from Josh. And something that you'll notice first of all is that the highest note is an E5. So right at the top end, counter tenor range here. Now when we're looking at this range, I mean, these are some impressively high notes, but you will notice how all of this down here, we're not touching. So the range we've got going on, I mean, it is still a great range. It's about an octave and a half. And I do say that, I mean, probably closer to 2 octaves actually, but I do say that great singers have that ability to take their voice up at least an octave from a verse to a chorus in any particular song. Generally the hits have that change in expression and emotion that you get by going higher up in your chest voice and belting. And I'm just going to let this play on. And the bottom note there that Josh is singing, he's going, yeah. And I know that when I sing it, it doesn't sound like that because I've got a lower voice. So when I'm talking, I go, yeah. It sounds like I've got to go, yeah. I've got to go higher to get the notes that Josh is singing that are low in his range. And this is the point that down in this area, if you're a baritone, these notes are potentially going to be in the middle of your voice, maybe even a little bit higher, like it sounds when I'm singing. And now this is the important point, that if I now do something fancy on the screen, this range that we've got, we can move this up and down, and all you've got to do is just make sure that you can hit the low note and the top note. So if you're a baritone, and you don't want to go up as far as the E5 at the top end, you can start bringing this down, and wherever your top note sits, you can place it there. Say, for example, you want it to be, a G4 as the top note of this song, then you can place it here. And this now means that the B here, which is the B2, is now your lowest note. And, you can see that still sits within the baritone range, so you will probably still be able to sing this song. But everyone thinks that they can't sing songs where the vocalist is hitting high notes because they're trying to sing it in that singer's range. And Josh, when I say range, I mean the classification of range, not from, just hitting notes in a singular way, in that that the high note's an E5. Oh, I can't hit an E5, that means I can't sing this song. You've got to be looking at the overall range and not these single notes. Now, Josh's range and his classification of range, this is where it gets a bit confusing, because people don't realise that the range, the classification, is just due to where that person sings, where their voice naturally sits. So whatever notes they're hitting, you move them down into the different ranges. So if you are a baritone, you literally do what I'm doing on the screen here. Move these notes down to where it's comfortable. If you're a bass, you can move it all the way down here. If you're a tenor and you want to go up to that A4, then you can kind of move it up to there. You might be able to get a little bit higher than the A4, so you move it up a little bit. But hopefully this graphic on screen shows you how vocals work. The classifications we've got on screen are from classical singing and opera, where everybody's voice sits in a particular place. So all of these notes you have in the male tenor range, if we were to move this kind of a little bit higher, or probably where it's sitting here, the male tenor high C, let's say that we just move it to there. So this is the note that Pavarotti could belt out in chest voice, get a really full sound, and he was a tenor because he'd be hitting all of these notes in chest voice. But the other classifications of, say for example, a baritone, we'd move it down, and now the baritones are belting, and this is the top end of their register, but they can now go a bit lower. So when you're talking about potentially harmonizing with other singers, you can get notes down here that a baritone will give you, and especially as we move further down, that a bass will give you, that a tenor can't get down that low. So you can now get effectively notes of a chord or harmonizing voices that are spanning, 2 octaves, 3 octaves, because you've got these different singers who all sing in a particular place. So I'm just going to briefly jump back into the video. I'll take it back a little bit, because what we get in this pre-chorus is this jump up of an octave. It's actually a little bit more than an octave. So there we had it. And going from that, yeah, because it's already quite high in my voice, if I'm now going, yeah, and I now try and push up over an octave, this isn't in my range. I mean, I can kind of belt it out and kind of force it if I wanted to, but I wouldn't be singing it here because this is Josh's voice. This is where his range sits. But anyway, let's have a listen. And you can hear the way that he's kind of he's kind of up there, crisis, and you can hear in my voice how, if I'd have to warm up my voice first of all, but I would have to kind of be placing this note as best I can with the low voice that I have. So for me to be singing this, I could probably have a go at it, but I'd have to make concessions with going even higher than that and not kind of hitting it as much in chest voice. The great thing about Josh's voice is his transitions between his vocal registers from, pretty much his mixed voice into head voice, but it sounds like it's all pretty much a mixed voice that he's got going on, and he just adds this little bit of distortion or compression to the sound when he's at the top end of his range. He has the ability to do that. Again, the impressive thing is not the height, because that's his natural voice. He's just doing that. He's not then going into the bass range. And I mean, this is another thing to point out, that when we listen to a singer and they start spanning loads of octaves, maybe 3 or 4 or 5, it starts to sound more like a novelty than an actual song. And the reason for that is because when we talk with each other, our voices naturally tend to span about an octave from when we're relaxed to then when we're really excited. And, pretty much if anybody goes, wow, and they're shocked by something, that wow was exactly an octave above where I am when I'm sounding relaxed, just talking normally. So this is why when you're listening to songs, that emotional response you have to somebody talking to you and then going up an octave, it's like, oh, something's different. Well, something different has happened, but there's a difference in expression in the talking voice. So when you apply that to singing, it's the same range that we have. So if somebody was talking to you and said, oh, I couldn't believe it the other day when I was walking down the street, oh, and they started kind of going, oh, started going all over the place, you think there's something wrong with this person. And it's exactly the same kind of thing that gets triggered when we listen to somebody singing with too wide a range. And pretty much when you're listening to somebody singing through a really wide range, it is a bit of a novelty. It's really difficult to pull that off musically and for it not to seem just a bit weird. It does happen sometimes when it is applied musically. Mariah Carey's one of those that I have referenced in the past with her whistle voice, and originally Minnie Riperton, check out her on the channel if you haven't already, because she had the ability to do that as well, to span more than the normal range that you'd have within a song and still make it sound musical. But sometimes it still was seen as a bit of a novelty, the whistle voice. When you're listening to songs and you're listening to range, it doesn't usually cover loads of octaves. It's usually just 1 or 2, maybe, because that corresponds more to talking, conversations, and emotion, expression of the talking voice, but musically. Again, go up. Yeah, that's Josh going down. I know I'm going up, but that's his low note. So you can hear that right in the verse, that top note, it just kind of flips up to, which is the E5. I mean, when you're thinking about Josh and what his talking voice would sound like, if you didn't know his talking voice, you would not expect him in an interview to be like this, going, well, the fans have been great. We've done loads of great shows. And you wouldn't expect that kind of voice. You'd expect it maybe around here, this kind of, it's above where I'm talking, but not insanely high. And you can just hear with his voice that he's got this naturally thin sound, but it's because of the height. And then, like I said, he can add that kind of distorted sound, which is actually, again, a bit of an illusion, because what he's doing, and this is the great thing about Josh's voice, is that he can get into this mixed voice place that's quite light. He's not really leaning into anything. He's got a light sound that he's then applying a little bit of compression to get it to sound like it's, kind of squeezing and pushing. So yeah, it's an illusion of the voice, but he does it so well that it just sounds great. So cue the capo that I've just put on the 5th fret, and this video's going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, because people always ask me, what's the capo used for? Why do people use them? And the answer is either they're not quite good enough at bar chords, they can't get a clean sound out of it, so then they can play the basic shapes just higher up the guitar. And what we're doing is we're moving the bottom of the guitar up. So at the bottom here we have our E, which is the lowest note that you'll get, and here is the F, F sharp, G, G sharp, A, and you can keep on moving it up. It's changing the key, and this is the other reason that it's used, is to quickly change the key of any song. You can put your capo on and then start playing in the key that suits your voice. Obviously you can change the key with bar chords as well. When I say about this, whoa yeah, that being Josh's low notes, some people at home might be going, oh yeah, oh yeah. They might be doing it an octave below that, because now I can do that. I've got the range to do that. So I could potentially sing this whole song an octave lower. It will sound obviously a lot lower than the original. What you tend to want to do is get your high note, wherever your high note sits, whatever it is, bring the range down so that your high note is the high note of the song, because then it'll still sound the same, like you're hitting that note at the top end of your chest voice to give the power and the emotion there. If you were doing a cover of this song, if I was doing a cover of this song, I would place it so that, I mean, this might be a little bit low. I mean, I might take it maybe one semitone higher so that I got an A4. Let's see what that's going to sound like. So we take it up here and just have a quick go. I can kind of na 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 na. It sounds like it's starting to get to the top of my chest voice. Just relating this back to guitar playing, this is where it is a huge advantage to be able to play bar chords, because if you don't have a capo, it means that if you wanted to, or if I wanted to place it, you know, at C and go na, 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 you can kind of feel what that's like, or go the same shape, just moving at a semitone higher. Na, 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 na. And you can start to feel with your voice exactly where you want or need the chords to be. It might be the case that you look at the E5 and think, right, and that's the highest note, by the way, in the verse of this song. So that verse, if you think, right, I'm never going to be able to hit that note, I want that high note to be, I don't know, an A. So we take the A minor, so we can go like that. So now we're going na 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 na. So you can hear how that na 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 in my voice, that sounds a lot higher, because it is from, you know, the notes that I'm then going to afterwards and that I've done previously. So we've taken that high note and just transposed it so that it's now for my voice. So now this whole song would be for my voice. And that's the mistake everybody makes, is they try to sing songs in other people's range. And trying to sing this song, you know, if you don't sound like Josh, if you haven't got his voice, then being able to sing it the same as this is going to be nigh on impossible. Even if you can hit the notes, you're not going to sound the same. When I'm going na 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 na, for me that's all fine. If somebody who had a lower voice tried to sing that, they might sound like they'd be getting the notes, but the tone would be different because it's kind of too high in their range, but they can hit them. And, you know, exactly the same thing that if somebody had a high voice and they tried to na 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 na, it would sound more like because they're reaching down for these notes rather than it being in their range. So this is the important thing to understand, that range works both ways. And to just I don't know, dispel that common misconception that range means height. It doesn't. Range is just the notes that are covered. The impressive thing is the control. And that's the impressive thing about all singers. Everyone has a different range, a different classification, but it's how they control their voice, you know, through their bridges, through their vocal registers to make it sound tonally consistent, having the control of airflow, all of these things. That's the impressive thing. So, yeah, an interesting video for tonight because it's a bit of a detailed one, but also explaining the concept and the overall concept of singing, that you're not supposed to be singing where other people sing because that's where they sing. You're supposed to sing where you sing. And if you were to do a cover of this song, it would sound like your own version because you're singing it with your voice. You're not trying to sing it with your voice pretending to be Josh's voice and trying to make your voice go really high. Just accept what you have and use it to the best of your ability. And if you get the same control as great singers like Josh, then you will sound great. And there are plenty of great singers who never sing this high, but they sound great because they've learned to use their voice, they've learned to control their voice within their range, and you know, they haven't got hung up on, you know, being able to hit an E5 in all of their songs because it's not required. If anything, you lose the personal expression of your voice when you try and move it too far outside of where it naturally sits. Thank you guys for requesting this video on Greta Van Fleet, but just widely looking at Josh's voice because it has opened the door to explain things that I think do get lost or are a bit of a secret of the voice and that people don't initially understand when they start to learn to sing. But then again, some singers never understand this and they're always trying to sing too high. So yeah, I think it's a really important lesson to understand, but just to appreciate in general, to do with singing. Anyway, thank you guys. Keep the suggestions and requests coming in the comment section below. As always, let me know what you guys think, and if you did enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys at the next one. Rock!